Welcome. In this video, we're going to import the base mesh that we prepared of our character from Maya. We've exported it in the prior tutorial in several different ways, and so we'll explore those ways on how to go ahead and import that into ZBrush and continue our project. When you launch ZBrush, you will find that the light box will be in your way, so you can go ahead and turn that off right up here in the upper left hand corner. Light box, it's a toggle, so go ahead and click on that and it'll put away that menu. If you're importing an FBX file type, you'll find that plugin in the plugins drop down under FBX export and import. Go ahead and import that. You will find your file type in the folder that you created it, and then you can go ahead and import that under if you're importing a .ma, a Maya ASCII file, or an OBJ, you can go ahead and use the tools import option. Go ahead and import that, and I'm going to go ahead and find that in my temp folder as I'm working on my project. Save my Maya files and my ZBrush tools in one location. So we'll go ahead and import the OBJ file type, or excuse me, yes, Can I go ahead and do that? And you will find that if there are difficulties with the mesh, you will get a pop-up that asks you if you want to import that and fix those issues, quads and triangles or triangles only. Definitely go with the quads and triangles option, as it will subdivide better. Now you can see your model located in that large icon. If you hover over that, it'll give you the image larger and the details. It will not place it in your viewport, however. So to do that, you can go ahead and hover over your viewport. This is not a drag and drop from that icon. You're going to hover over your viewport with your left mouse button. You're going to click and drag that into your scene. The very next step, this is very important, the very next step is to come over here and click on the edit icon. If you do not do that, you will be drawing in additional images and dropping them to your canvas, and that'll just be a pretty picture for you. So once you click on the edit icon, it will be a 3D object where you can go ahead and begin to work with that. Now, a little bit on navigation. Left mouse button, click and drag in your open viewport to go ahead and tumble around your model. If you hold down your control key and your right mouse button, you can go ahead and zoom in and out. If you hold down your Alt with the right mouse button, you can go ahead and sort of tumble around move from side to side. And let's see, what else can I show you about the navigation? As we proceed, I'll go ahead and show you more and more navigation tips, as well as other types of tips for getting going there. Over here, if you forget your keystrokes, no matter, you've got icons that can help you with the camera for your viewport. If you click on frame, it'll frame up your object in the center of the scene. So if for any reason you lose your model off in space, you can always resort to the frame up icon here. To move, again, click and drag over that move icon, scale in and out, and then rotate. You can tumble around your character. Now, it's important to know that this one viewport will give you multiple views. You don't have to navigate away from here to get to your orthographic views. Right here, up here in the right hand area, you can see that you've got an icon for perspective distortion. So that would be your perspective camera. But you turn that off and you'll be in orthographic. So you can still tumble around, but you will be in orthographic view mode without the distortion of the perspective camera. Now, to get to your orthographic views, you can lock into those views by holding your Shift key down as you're navigating. So let me demonstrate that for you. Left mouse button, we know that you can tumble around. As you get close to that side view, hold your Shift key down, then release your mouse button, and you will be locked into that side orthographic view. So if I'm turning with my left mouse button, again, if I get close to my front view, I'm going to hold my Shift key down, release my mouse button, and I'll be in the front view. Tumble around to the top view, hold my Shift key down, and now I'm in the top view. Alright, and I can position and navigate accordingly with the keystrokes or over here. It's very easy to get off kilter though. You just want to make sure that you lock down your orthographic view with your Shift icon as you progress. Back view, bottom view, you go wherever you want with this particular navigation system. Alright. Now, just very quickly, a tour around the world. We're not going to cover every single icon and functionality, but to get started, I want you to see that on your right-hand side, and this is a docking port, you've got a number of docking ports. If you hover over these tiny little icons here, the left and right arrow, and double click, it'll close and open these docking ports. You got one on the bottom, one on the left-hand side, and of course this one on the right-hand side, which is open by default with your tools menu loaded here. Now, this is your primary tool packet. You'll be in here 99% of the time. And if for any reason you have closed that or lose it, you can go ahead and grab that from the tools drop down as well. You can see that when I clicked on the drop down menu, it popped over there. To get that back, if you hover over the tiny little icon in the frame, you can go ahead and drag that back over there. To close it, just go ahead and click on that, and it's as simple as that. This drop-down algorithm is pretty powerful and it snaps back pretty quickly, so that's why we want to dock our tools over here so that we don't have to fight with that. Alright, so loading your tool. Once you get started, if you come right back down here to Subtool, you'll notice that it looks like a layering system. And this little eyeball is to turn on and off the visibility of the different layers, if you will. These are called subtools, and we will get into creating additional subtools and so on as we progress. Know that this is where you can find those. The next, and this is a click toggle, open and close, so you can just click on that and go to the next one, geometry. You'll also be in here quite a bit with dividing or subdividing your model and the various tools for model creation in here. These are also many tools and different functionality that we'll be getting into some of those things for this intro course. When you create a subtool and when you import your model and click on edit, you get that subtool, you can save that as well. So to save your subtool, you're going to go ahead and save as, and you'll get a file type, ZTool, ZTL. That's what you want to save to preserve your work file. And then we'll go into exporting your model when we get to that point. All that you can find right up here in the tools menu. You can also kind of find your conversion and cloning and so forth. But again, we will talk more about that when we get into those particular needs. Alright, the large icon is the active tool, the one that you see in your viewport. You also have a number of Z tools that you can also click on, and those will come into your scene. They won't come into your scene with your character. There are other tools that you can access. Additionally, if you click on one of those, you can see that there are more 3D meshes and 2.5D brushes. Your quick picks is up at the top, things that you currently have loaded into your tools palette here. But for the most part, if you lose track, so you accidentally click on one of these, you can always click back on your character to get him back in the scene there. Along the top, you have standard drop-down windows. Some of them we'll use for 3D modeling. Some of them are intended for 2.5D work. So we won't be into all of these menus, but I encourage you to explore regardless. You have some of your functionality along the top. You can also access that by just simply holding down your spacebar. In your spacebar, you can see your brush size, your focal shift, that's your internal influence, and then of course the Z intensity, which is overall influence of the brush that you currently have selected. The current selected brush is located right up here in the upper left-hand corner. If you click on that, you will see that you have a wide variety of types of brushes. This is only one palette. There are a number of palettes that we will cover. Some of the other functionality as we go along. The second one down is your stroke palette. You can modify your stroke and get different effects, but for the most part we're going to stay in freehand or dots to get started. Alpha brushes, we'll cover this as we progress and get into really more fine detail. It's a lot of fun to play and create those alpha brushes. These are the brushes that are typically used for creating surface definition, such as scales, patterns of different kinds, scratches, anything that has real low topology on that. You can also use that at higher influence to create some pretty good raised surfaces. So again, we'll play with that later on in the series. Textures, we're not going to cover textures in the modeling course for the most part, other than getting the normal map generated from your low-high inside ZBrush, so you know how to do that. Materials can be fun as well. They will not export out of ZBrush. However, you can go ahead and, for example, apply a skin texture so you can see a little bit more how the lights and shadows are going to play across your sculpture as you go. I find this particular static matte cap red wax is representative of a color of clay that I use as a sculptor outside of digital. It's a traditional form of sculpture, and so I find this very easy. It's a sort of a mid-level tone, so you can get a good range of highlights and shadows here, so you can see what you're doing a little bit better. There's also a gray in here, but I find that not as useful because of the background tones. Tends to get lost on the grayscale background there. Yes, you can go ahead and change your background color. You can do that through Document, and you can go ahead and play with the back, the border, and the borders around your model if you so choose. Usually we do that when we're getting ready to render something for a portfolio, but it exists right here. If you click on that, you can, and just hold with your left mouse button, you can drag that across your screen and pick up any color that you so choose for your background color. That's fun to play with. I'm going to go ahead and leave my gradient back here. for the most part, so that you can see the default settings as we go. Alright, this is your color palette. When you are using your color, there's really some fabulous what I call starter tools in ZBrush. Get quite far with your textures if you go ahead and paint with Spotlight, which allows you to paint with actual photography to generate a nice surface detail and color-wise, so that you can get a first pass texture map out of here. Normally that's what I do with it, and then take it into Photoshop to complete that work. UV unwrap is something that we'll talk about in the in this series as well, so you can actually get a first pass texture map out of here, so that you can create that texture map for your character. Alright, so let's, without further ado, go ahead and go to our next video, and we will take our character and begin to actually sculpt we're going to start by subdividing him, then we're going to sculpt some of his detail in the anatomy. Thank you for joining me. I hope you join me for the next section as we talk about identifying bony landmarks and getting some muscle on our character.